Welcome to the Waltham Forest Early Years Childcare and Business Development Service training for an introduction to visual cues. Before viewing this webinar, you are advised to read the Visual Aids guidance document. The document will support you in developing your understanding of visual aids and how to use them to support children in your setting. The guidance document can be found here on this link. So the intention of today's training is to explore the different types of visual aids, to find out about visual support systems, to consider who can use visual aids. So let's start with what are visual aids and why do we use them? Do you use them? Why do you use them? What do they look like in your setting? Who do you use them with? Does everybody use them? Are you confident in using them? I'd like you to take a moment to pause this video and jot down some ideas that you can think about later on. So what is a visual aid? Visual aids are communication tools. They can be used in most situations, are adaptable and portable. So visual aids are a method to communicate when we can't rely on speech alone. They are used in an AAC approach to facilitate communication and help get our needs and wants met and understood. So AAC is augmentative and alternative communication, which is a range of strategies and tools to help people who struggle with speech. These may be simple letter or picture boards or sophisticated computer-based programs. AAC helps someone to communicate as effectively as possible in as many situations as possible, and that's from communicationmatters.org. The link's on your screen now. So visual aids are a method to communicate when we can't rely on speech. Macket and sign-in, symbols, photos, they're all considered AAC approaches. Visual aids are a communication tool and they can help and support to provide structure and routine for children, encourage independence, build confidence, improve understanding. They can help avoid frustration and anxiety, and they can provide opportunities to interact with others. So we need to think about the different types of visuals. When words are difficult for children to understand and use, other forms of communication will help. Before you start, think about how the child already communicates, what they understand and recognise, and what they are interested in. Visual aids can be used in different forms to support communication. The child's level of understanding will determine the best method or medium to use. You may already use some or all of these methods in your setting. Let's explore the different types of visuals. So objects of reference, commonly used to support or clarify speech. For example, holding up a cup and asking if they would like a drink, or presenting the child with a paintbrush and inviting them to paint. It's using an object to clarify what we are saying. Photographs. Photographs of an object or an activity perhaps. Photographs are commonly used as visual aids. The important thing is that you are using a picture that someone can easily recognise to illustrate an item. Symbols. These could be black and white or colour, and they are a representation of an object or an activity. So effective use of a symbol requires a child to be able to recognise what the symbol represents. The level of a child's development may require photos before symbols, or using symbols and photos together at the same time. It's not always easy to jump straight into using symbols if a child doesn't have the recognition and the ability to understand representation. We may use text as a visual. We often label our environment with text, with pieces of text. This is perfectly acceptable and it can be used alongside PECs or with PECs books in addition. So why do we use visual aids? To demonstrate routine. A visual timetable is a set of visual symbols displayed one after the other, showing what is going to happen during the day. A display such as this is great for showing children what is going to be happening in their day. This is really helpful for all children, but vital for those that feel anxious because they don't know what the day will hold. To label areas and resources, as you will already know, it is essential that a child feels comfortable in your setting in order for them to flourish. By labelling the areas, doors, cupboards, boxes, toilets, etc., the children will be able to learn their way around their environment, allowing them some control over what they can access. This is also vital for tidy up time. You can't expect children to tidy up effectively if they can't see where things go. To support children with additional needs, visuals are a great support for all children, but for some children with additional needs, they are vital. Visuals offer a consistent way for children to communicate without the added complication of tones of voice and different choice of words. To give instructions, visual images are a great way to show children a step-by-step guide of how to do something without you having to constantly remind them with verbal instructions. This lets them learn a new skill and provides them with a reminder as they practice that skill. Hand washing is a great example of this. Have visual images above a sink showing a child a step-by-step process to washing their hands. And to allow the child to be themselves, giving children access to visuals allows them to communicate with you where they otherwise may have been unable to. It's quite important that children can have access to the visuals themselves, as well as having things presented to them. They need to be able to access them to present to you if possible. So what support systems do you have in place in your setting? I'd like you to take a moment to pause the video and consider what visual support systems you have currently got in place in your setting. Considering the visual aids available to us, how do we use them? How do we use the visuals with the children? So you may not have been familiar with the term visual aids, but I'm sure now you will realise that you have visual supports in your classroom. Have a little think about what they are and note some of those down. So now we're going to look a little more closely at some visual support systems. So first of all, a visual timetable. Using a visual timetable can help with structuring a child's day, building them a routine and supporting their understanding of what to expect and when. A visual timetable is made up of objects, photos or symbols which represent the individual activities that the child is expected to participate in. The timetable should not be too long. It should only display activities for a limited period. For example, the timetable will show the activities up to break time, possibly lunchtime, and then change to show the activities from after lunch until home time. This can be increased as the child becomes more familiar with the timetable system. It should be accessible to the child, so not hidden away or out of reach. It needs to be there where they can see it and have access to it to fully understand its use. Now and next boards, or first and then boards, are best used before a visual timetable because it breaks it down into even smaller pieces than the visual timetable. Start with a symbol or a photo of what will happen now. In this example in front of you, we have writing now, and then a symbol of what is next, for example, snack. When starting to use these boards for the first time, it's good to have the next activity as something that is motivating to the child. You don't want to start with writing and next is maths if all they really want to do is go and play. So once it's well established and the child has understood that now they must do this and then they can do that, you can develop the now, next and then board, also shown on your screen, which will extend their attention. So they have to do two activities. They're required to do two activities before they then get their desired activity. You must make sure that the now is achievable. It's pointless to have now as writing if the child can't hold a pen. It's better to have mark making. Be realistic in expectation. We want the child to begin to understand the concept of responding to what we want them to do in order to get what they want. So drawing, therefore, might be putting a piece of paper in front of them and supporting them to make a quick mark on the page. Heap on the praise and move on to the next. Always emphasize the system. Yes, well done, you've done this one, now you can have this. So lanyards, we see these in use in a lot of settings as we go around. They're a quick and effective method of visual support, or at least they should be. Have key symbols on lanyards for quick and easy access. It's no good having 30 symbols which you have to look through. Important symbols such as drink, toilet, stop, good sitting are valuable to have to hand. It might be worthwhile having several different lanyards with different activities on. So maybe one lanyard to represent outside and another one for inside, or perhaps one for a specific activity. Often people are wearing them on lanyards around their necks because a lot of us wear staff badges on lanyards, so we can easily attach them to them. This photo here is using a clip-on keyring, which is equally as accessible. Choosing boards. A choosing board helps to visually present options to a pupil and adds structure to activities that can be confusing. So a choosing board can be used in conjunction with a box of items, maybe a treasure box or a basket, a box of items used for speech and language groups, etc., to help the pupil to access the activity. So show the pupil the box and then present them with the choosing board. Display the symbols or photographs of the items in the box that they can choose from. The pupil should be encouraged to remove the symbol or photo they want and exchange it with the leading adult for the corresponding item. If the pupil does not want the item they've selected, the symbol should be shown alongside the item to reinforce what it is they have requested. Then return the symbol to the board and try again. The items may need to be visible to begin with, so use objects of reference alongside the symbols so the child begins to understand the representation of a symbol. Once the item is finished, the symbol should be removed from the board completely and replaced with another symbol if there are more items available. This will also help the pupil to visualise the activity finishing or coming to an end as the things disappear from the board in front of them. It could also be used, certainly in reception, alongside your timetable to break down further free flow or choosing or play, or however your timetable displays it. So if your timetable displays free flow, then you can use a choosing board to help them select an activity that you have out. So that might be that your choosing board has symbols for drawing, construction, small world. Again, you might need objects of reference alongside it, but it will help give a little bit of structure to what can sometimes be quite confusing to children. So the Picture Exchange Communication System, also known as PECS. It's really important to point out that PECS is a system. The symbols are a media that are used to facilitate the system. So a symbol is not PECS, the system is PECS. So PECS is part of an AAC approach, and it was developed in the USA by Bondi and Frost. And you can find more information on their Pyramid website. It was initially used for pupils with autism, and it's been successfully implemented worldwide for learners with communication challenges. As I say, there's a lot more information on their website, but the key point of PECS is broken into 6 phases and begins by teaching an individual to give a single picture of a desired item or action to a partner, who then immediately honours the exchange. So you are exchanging a symbol for something else. So it's a two-way communication process. It will then go on to teach discrimination of pictures and how to put them together in sentences. In more advanced phases, individuals are taught to use answers, questions and comments. The primary goal of PECS is to teach functional communication, the exchange, that they hand something over and they get something back. So it's very involved, and we often use modified versions in our classrooms and settings. So we don't use PECS in its purest form, but we use the principle of a book with a selection of symbols that the children can choose from and exchange with an adult to have their needs met. But again, I must stress that it's really important to remember that PECS uses symbols. PECS isn't symbols. PECS is the system. Symbols facilitate the system. So who should use a visual aid? Who will benefit from facilitated communication? So AAC is about facilitating communication. The definition given in early slides does not limit this to special educational needs and disabilities. Visuals are there to aid communication, so are beneficial to many children. So I'd like you now to pause the video and to think about who are visual aids for. Thinking about AAC, what communication differences might require visual aids in your setting, and what systems or methods might you use and why. So you might want to think about special needs, the age groups of some of your children, English as an additional language. Write down some of the communication differences and how you can support them. So these might be some of the things that you thought about. So who are visual aids for? You might have English as an additional language. Perhaps you use objects of reference, which are beneficial to clarify new words. Children with special educational needs and disabilities, you may use a whole variety of visual supports to reinforce the spoken word. Young children, age. I'm thinking of summer-born children. Communication may not be as developed as older peers. You may have two children in the same class who are almost a year apart. Their communication will be at different levels. What might you have to use with them to support them? Parents, staff and visitors. So it doesn't only apply to children. They may also have English as an additional language. They may have a disability, a hearing impairment. What might you need to use for them? So visual aids are not limited to children with special educational needs, and they are beneficial to all children. It's really important to stress that visual aids are really supportive to all communication differences, regardless of the cause. But you must consider the appropriate method. Is it acceptable to present a parent with a PECS board because they have English as additional language? No, it's not. But we could use an object of reference to clarify what it is we're saying. Visual aids and inclusion. So visual aids, as we've just said, they're not limited to children with special educational needs. They are there to facilitate communication and reinforce information sharing. As such, they will benefit all children in one way or another. Words and spoken communication do not last. It's not tangible. We can't hold on to it. If you think of the phrase in one ear and out the other, it tells us that the words disappear. They're not lasting. It can be very easy to forget what we have been told or asked, regardless of special educational needs and disabilities. As an adult, how often have we gone upstairs and forgotten what we've gone for? A symbol holds its meaning. We may have forgotten the words, but the symbol is there to remind us. If I'd gone up the stairs with a symbol, would I have a better memory of what I went for? Or if I went up with a packet of toilet rolls, would I know where I was going? So for this reason, some visual aids can be used all the time, whether we have children with additional needs or not. So things to consider. It's important to consider what medium to use to facilitate communication. If speech and language therapy have got input, they may have plans in place for children that indicates a particular method, medium that should be used, so you must adhere to that. But things to consider. Objects of reference. If a child's level of understanding does not extend to representative measures, objects of reference should be used, but consider using symbols alongside the actual object to help the child begin to make the links. A symbol for snack, you have to be able to understand that that symbol represents all foods presented to you at snack time. So if a child doesn't understand that a symbol of snack means an apple or an orange or a biscuit or all of the above, you may need to present them with the item that is on offer for snack time alongside the snack symbol. If we don't use the symbols alongside the objects, they're never going to make, or it'll be harder for them to make the association. So it's quite important, begin with the objects of reference and then introduce symbols alongside for clarity. So photos. We must think about what is in the photo. To us, it may be clearly a picture of a cup on a table, but to a child, it might be the tiny train on the cabinet in the background, or it could be the train or the car that's passing through the window behind the cup that we're taking a photo of. Try to only have the object you want the child to focus on in the photo. And again, you might want to consider having photos alongside symbols just to help one clarify the other. And then symbols. There are a lot of symbols available quite freely on the internet. But do consider what is in your symbol before using them. Are they too busy? As with photos, what else is going on? And also consider your subject. So a snack symbol might show biscuits. Do you have biscuits on offer for your snack? If not, this isn't quite the right representation. Consider a different snack symbol or symbols of all of the items available for snack. So just be careful with symbols that they're not too busy or too colourful or are a little bit misleading with what's in the content. So what now? So thank you for undertaking this training. Throughout the webinar, we've paused for thinking and reflection moments. We'd like you to use the notes you've made throughout to include visual aids in your setting and or modify systems that you already have in use. So here are some useful links for you. So here's a link for PECs on the pyramid approach. As we discussed, there are some visual aids resources downloadable from the Send Success website. Amazon have some visual aids that can be purchased, and Widget Online is a symbol program which is quite popular amongst settings. So for any further information or any questions you might have, you can reach me at this address here, nicolarobson@walthamforest.gov.uk, and there are a number of other addresses here for any questions you may have. And finally, further training opportunities are available as part of the Send Passport on the hub. There is a link to this here, and we welcome any feedback on the training we offer. To share your views and opinions on the training available, please email the second email address on this page. Thank you.